So, easing back to school jitters for students who are back in the classroom in about a week from now. Creating a routine, instilling confidence, so important, right?
Yeah, easier said than done, though. But lucky for you, we have invited empowerment coach Cristina Ramirez, who is joining this morning with some practical advice on how we can help our kids be less anxious and more confident. So good morning, Cristina. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, I think a lot of people blame social media for everything, right? Whether you're in elementary, middle school, high school. Do you find, though, that social media is part of I guess a big part of the problem with self-confidence?
100%, because we look at social media and even though intellectually we know that it's not real, we still compare ourselves to that. But social media is here to stay. And instead, while the kids are young, it's easier to control how much time they spend on social media. Yeah. But I think it's better to think about, well, how do we educate and empower kids and ourselves as well to look at social media and understand comparing with that is going to be a despairing, and how to be empowered by social media instead of being eroding in our confidence. Because
yeah, I mean, social media is a huge asset, part of a child's life, but so is learning from your mistakes. And I find that sometimes helicopter parents may not allow children to learn from their mistakes, right? Because they don't make them because the helicopter parents right over them.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of break that for the parent?
Sure. So confession, I was a helicopter parent myself. When my kids were little, I was on HuffPost Live because I was a helicopter parent. So it's normal and it's natural because we love our kids to try to protect them. But I think that when we understand that, they don't become confident because, oh, I went to the store and I came back and I'm alive. Isn't that going to make me confident? They really become confident. It's a habit, and confidence comes from doing difficult things and overcoming them. So if we don't get them in the habit of doing difficult things, regardless of what the result is, confidence doesn't come from always succeeding. Confidence comes from doing difficult things and knowing that you're going to survive and everything's going to be great no matter what.
And you say that how you start your day is really a part of that solid foundation you need. And you also talk about breathing exercises.
Yeah. So routines are really important, again, for kids as well as for adults. And so when I'm working with parents, I give them this example. If I told you there's $500 in the wall across this room, but I'm going to blindfold you and I'm going to turn off the lights and all you have to do is get to the money and it's yours. The first thing that you're going to do is put your hands up because you have to see where the wall is, where the furniture is, so that you don't bump into them. By the 50th time that you do this, you don't have to put your hands out anymore. You know where the wall is and where the furniture is. But if every time you walk into that room, the walls change and the furniture change, then every time you're going to have to touch to see where those boundaries are. So the more firm that routine is and those boundaries are, the less kids are going to have to push against it in order to know what is right and wrong and what's going to lead them to be successful.
Yeah, and lastly here, you talk about physical activity, right? And how important that is to a mindset.
Yes. And one of the things that I think is fantastic is to connect physical activity with how your emotional, how you're feeling. So one thing that I do is called the Moody Run. And you can do this with your kids at the park or at your house. And it's just like, so how would you run if you were excited? And they're going to be like,
Yeah.
How do you run if you're sad? And they're going to go like this. How do you run if you're exhausted? And they're going to go even lower. How do you run if the bear's chasing you? And you start connecting how they feel to their posture. And then you remind them, okay, so when was the time that you had to be brave, that you had to do something that you were afraid of, but you did it anyways? And they'll tell you, well, I went on the bus for the first time or the roller coaster. And it's like, okay, so brave. How would you run if you were brave? And then they're going to come up with their brave posture. Right. And so when they're about to do something that is scary to them, you remind them, give me your brave posture, and give it. And that's going to help them embody that emotion. That's what's wonderful about that connection between emotion and your body.
Oh, that's great advice.
Yes.
Cristina Ramirez, thanks for joining us this morning. This is really helpful, especially with kids going back to school in just about a week.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, talk soon.